Good morning, Tampa Bay. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday, September 27th edition. Channelside in the morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. We're going to keep it short. We're going to keep it a little sweet today. Obviously, we've kind of got bigger fish to fry in the area. First big storm. Actually, city of Tampa just put out another alert for more evacuations. Sweet. Yeah, man. So obviously, like I said, we've got important things we need to discuss today. We've got, it's not overreacting or panicking to react to a situation. If you're reacting responsibly and you're doing things that you need to do to be precautionary, and you're not losing your shit and you're not losing your minds and things aren't going crazy, like this to me, this is where you want to be, right? You want to be in that area. You want to react, but you don't want to overreact. So if things are happening, just make it happen. If you don't let anybody tell you. And I know you hear people joke and they're like, "Oh, well, you're gonna revoke your Florida card or blah blah blah. You sandbags." And like, everybody's situation is different. Like it's ridiculous to be completely honest. But in the world of sports, look, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers evacuated. Right, they're practicing down in Miami at the Dolphins facility. They're awaiting word from the league to see if the game is going to be rescheduled on Sunday. If we get the amount of storm surge that they're expecting us to get in this area, like it's probably going to have to be rescheduled. I mean, now we're looking at a Tuesday morning or a Thursday morning landfall, and they're saying like 48 straight hours of hurricane rains and winds, and like, bro, you're not going to be able to have a football game on a sopping wet field that might potentially be underwater. You might not even be able to get to Raymond James Stadium depending on how much storm surge we get. So like, what's the phrase? Failing to plan is planning to fail. Like that's realistically, that's what that situation is. I feel like Roger Goodell is just like, well, you know what? Yeah, well, I don't want my Florida card revoked, so I don't want to make any rash decisions right away. Bro, if we need to have the game, which I'm not even sure how many of us are going to be able to watch the game. We're looking at a Category 3 Hurricane Ian right now making landfall, which likely means we're going to have power outages for a little bit. Like I've been reading comments because I'm new to Tampa. I've never lived. I'm only 5 miles from the coast right now. My old house when I lived down in Southwest Florida, we were like 30 miles from the coast, give or take. Actually, I think it was like 20 and change. We were like 22 miles from the coast. We didn't have to worry about things like that because we were just so far inland. We didn't have to worry about storm surge. Like we lived in the estates. We had canals, but we were always in a drought, so we didn't have to worry about rising water and stuff like that. So it is a little bit different. So when I'm watching, the tracks and I'm watching the every 2-hour updates from the hurricane hunters and stuff, and I'm trying to figure out and just look and, you got to have a plan. You got to have some sort of plan, whether it's I'm staying home, I'm hunkering down, I'm not doing anything. That's fine. That's your plan. If you're going to pack your stuff, you're heading up north, you're heading out west, that's fun. That's your plan, right? Like you got to have some sort of plan about what you're going to do, because otherwise you're going to be sitting in your house potentially with your roof blown off going, wow, shit. Like, I mean, like, don't let anybody sit there and tell you like, oh yeah, we're going to revoke your Florida. Maybe that's just like a Southwest Florida redneck thing, like, and I'm not using the term redneck in any sort of like derogatory means. I've got some great friends that are, like, I'm going to be out hunting bucks the day before. And I love them just the same. right? But yeah, don't let anybody tell you that if you're making any sort of plan, if you're within the right state of mind, you're fine. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. I do have something that I want to talk about Buccaneers related. So people are still trying to jump my shit, so to speak, about my comment about Mike Evans wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game. And too many people are still fixated on this. You're slandering Mike and it's not. I'm not slandering Mike Evans. It doesn't matter who you have at wide receiver. If your pass blocking grades, okay? I'm going to run through the pass blocking grades for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I'm going to pull them up on the phone here real quick. The number one pass blocking grade from the Green Bay Tampa Bay game was Tristan Wirfs with a 76.5. Lowest he's had. That's one of the lowest games he's had in his career. All pro, not slandering Tristan Wirfs. Good players have bad days at the office. Everybody does, and it's not going to be the last time that Tristan Wirfs has a bad day at the office. And then we go to 2, 3, and 4. Number 2 is Kieft, 72.8. Number 3 is Kyle Rudolph, 67.6. Number 4 is Cam Brate, 62.4. And then we get back to our offensive line. Now we get back to our pass protection of Tom Brady. Now you see Robert Hainsey at a 60.4. Yeah, you heard that right, a 60.4 from our center. Brandon Walton, a 55.1. Shaq Mason, who was supposed to be an upgrade, 53.2. Bad day at the office. It happens. Luke Gedeke. Do you guys want to hear Luke Gedeke's number? 32.3. Luke Gedeke had a 32.3 grade in pass blocking. That's why it doesn't matter if Mike Evans is playing the game or not. It doesn't matter if Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Julio Jones and Jerry Rice and Calvin Johnson and Randy Moss. It doesn't matter if any of those guys are in the lineup, because if your quarterback is being protected by 60 and lower pass blocking grades, he is going to be, it doesn't matter if he's the GOAT. He's going to be under duress the entire game. He's going to be hurried. He's going to be sacked. He's going to be hit. He's going to be knocked down. That's why it doesn't matter if Mike Evans played. That's why. And if you can't, you have to get your mind around just seeing the name Mike Evans, because that's what too many of you are doing. I've literally had 600-700 comments on the Channelside Facebook page saying I don't know what I'm talking about because Mike Evans is better than 2 points. And there's no value to Mike Evans. There's no value to any wide receiver if your offensive line can't protect the quarterback. Wide receivers are only as good as the quarterback can be. The quarterback is only as good as his pass protection can be, especially if he's a pocket passer and not a mobile quarterback. If we've got a quarterback like a Lamar Jackson or a Jalen Hurts or a Tua even so far through the 3 games this season, maybe it's a different story. And then you say, well, yeah, if Mike Evans played, things could open up because we got a quarterback that can make some things happen with his feet in the backfield. But we don't have that with Tom Brady. And that's okay. That's not a slight on Tom Brady. We know what Tom Brady is. Tom Brady's the GOAT for a reason. But he's not a mobile quarterback. And he's never been a mobile quarterback. To assume that he's going to be mobile at the ripe age of 45 years old is bananas. I didn't even realize that I just put that together when I said ripened bananas. Kudos to me. I'm going to give myself a little air horn because that's, I mean, come on, guys. It's fantastic stuff. But that's the important thing. Green Bay has a better defense than both Dallas and New Orleans through 3 games this season. I know Jair Alexander is probably a top 3 cornerback, but the fact remains that Rasul Douglas has been better in coverage this season through 3 games than Jair Alexander has been. Jair Alexander goes out. Mike Evans is playing the game. That's great. You're going to put Rasul Douglas into the safety over top. Done. Mike Evans is shut down. Russell Gage is still going to have 12 catches. Scotty Miller is still going to drop everything. Brashad Perry, like, if Mike Evans plays, that doesn't mean that Russell Gage and Brashad Perriman all of a sudden have superhuman strength in their hands and aren't going to fumble the ball. Mike Evans has no value in that sense either. Oh, well, he wouldn't have got the ball. That's fine. Russell Gage gets 8 catches instead of 12 catches if Mike Evans plays. That doesn't mean he still has the same opportunity to fumble that ball. Right? Like that's what we're failing to realize. And we're just getting hung up on the name Mike Evans and assuming that we're slandering Mike Evans when in fact we're not at all. I have people tell me, well, the problem with the Buccaneers is it starts up front. The problem is the offensive line. Correct. There's a reason why Tom Brady has lower passing yards. I read this off yesterday. I'll do this again. There's a reason why Tom Brady has less passing yards than Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco, Davis Mills, Jameis Winston, and Geno Smith. There's a reason why he has a lower passer rating than Jared Goff, Jacoby Brissett, and Carson Wentz. 10 out of 10 times we're taking Tom Brady. It's not a knock on Tom Brady, but there's a reason why his numbers are low. There's a reason why Mike Evans is starting the season off slow. There's a reason why, and it starts up front, and that's why it doesn't matter what wide receivers you have out there. Every wide receiver outside of Scotty Miller caught damn near every target. Russell Gage, 12 receptions on 13 targets. Every wide receiver caught 1 less reception than their total targets. That's a damn good day for your wide receivers. What happens after the catch has no merit on who's playing. No, not one bit, not whatsoever does that matter who is out there on the field and who is playing. If Russell Gage has 4 catches on 13 targets, we've got an argument. Wide receivers just underperformed. Scotty Miller, 1 catch on 5 targets? Scotty Miller has no business being on this roster. I'm sorry. To all the Scotty Miller fans that are out there, I'm sorry. Scotty Miller has no business being on this roster. He's supposed to be our deep threat. He's not even the deep threat. He averaged less yards per reception, less airtime yards and everything than Tyler Johnson did last year. Scotty Miller's on the team because he's friends with Tom Brady. Let's address the elephant in the room, and let's talk about what is what. He is on the field. Well, he's on the field because of the injuries, but he's on the roster because he's Tom Brady's friend. Like let's call a spade here. Like there's no argument there. But the problem is the offensive line, guys. The problem is the offensive line. So when I say if Mike Evans not playing doesn't affect the game, that's why I'm saying that. I'm not saying it because I think Mike Evans is not a good wide receiver. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame wide receiver. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame wide receiver, guys. But it doesn't matter. He's rendered useless and ineffective because you know that Mike Evans is your first read. Mike Evans is Tom Brady's first read on the vast majority of plays. That's what your wide receiver one is. That's why he is wide receiver one on any team. That's what wide receiver one is. The first look. Tom Brady does not have time to go first, second, third, fourth, back to first. He doesn't have time to go through his progressions because of the passer grades that I just read you. I swear I'm going to get over this cold. But Tom Brady is looking at this, and this is why Russell Gage had 13 targets, because Russell Gage stepped in to wide receiver one. He was the first read. Tom Brady has the lowest average time to throw before being hurried in the league. 2.17 seconds through 3 games is what Tom Brady has. They talked about Daniel Jones last night being under duress all game. Daniel Jones has a full second more than Tom Brady. Think about that. They talked about Daniel Jones last night, and the Cowboys set a record. They had more pressures. They have more pressures than they have since 2017 in a game. And Daniel Jones still has a full second more time to throw before being hurried than Tom Brady does. Just think about that. It doesn't matter if Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time still needs to use his eyes. He still needs to make decisions. If you can't use your eyes and make decisions, bad things are going to happen. Luckily for Tom Brady, he's smart, so interceptions aren't happening. But drives are stalling. Points aren't being scored. You know, I told Evan, I was giving him all kinds of flack for having Leonard Fournette on his sits. He said he wanted Leonard Fournette to sit on his fantasy lineup. I gave him all kinds of flack. I was like, well, I mean, the Buccaneers saw the formula for the Chicago Bears. The Bears pounded the ball up Green Bay's throat, and they had no answer for David Montgomery. I think Leonard Fournette could do the same thing. He couldn't. Shaq Mason had 39.4 passer block or run block. Robert Hainsey, 40.5. Luke Gedeke, 56. Tristan Wirfs, 69.3. Tristan Wirfs was the only green scorer. So there's problems with the offensive line that need to be addressed, and you assume that they're already going to be addressed, right? Like there's problems that need to be fixed. So when I mention Tom Brady or I mention a Mike Evans or a Chris Godwin or Leonard Fournette, it's not a slight on those guys because you can only get so much done on your own. Football is a team game. That's why quarterback wins and losses aren't a stat. That's why they're not a stat, because football is a team game. I don't want to hear about the 5 seconds. I don't want to hear I don't want to hear about any of that. Those are just excuses that it already happened. We knew what the formula was to beat Green Bay, and they didn't execute. You can't beat very many teams by scoring 12 points. I'm sorry. You're not going to beat many teams by scoring 12 points, period. So you have to address the offensive line. This team is going to live and die through the offensive line. Is getting Ryan Jensen back going to be a thing? I don't know. If I look at Robert Hainsey, I mean, based off of what we saw from Robert Hainsey in week 3, yeah, Ryan Jensen's a huge step up. Ryan Jensen was not the best in terms of run blocking and pass blocking, but he was the best in terms of vocal leadership of his linemen. Who's stepping up to hold his fellow linemen accountable? Is it Shaq Mason? He has no camaraderie with the team. Is it Luke Gedeke? He's a rookie and he's playing like shit. Like who is it? Who's it going to be that's stepping up for the team and holding other guys accountable? Because it can't always be Tom Brady. It can't always be Tom Brady that's getting in everybody's face. You got to have somebody else, because here's the reality. Tom Brady's not going to be here next year. So what do you do? Shaq Mason is under contract multiple years. Obviously, Luke Gedeke is. Robert Hainsey is. Ryan Jensen's under contract for but who are we going to who's going to step up and fill that role? Nobody's done that. Ryan Jensen can only do so much from the sideline in terms of motivation and rah-rah speeches and hyping the guys up, right? You need somebody to step into that role. That's the reality of the situation, is that you need somebody to step into the role so that somebody is being held accountable and going, I don't want to piss this guy off. That's what leadership is, man. And there's no offensive lineman leadership right now. The Bucs have been living by that next man up mentality. This is now going to be 2 straight years they've lived by this next man up mentality. And look, it's only going to get you so far. You know, we went from being the 6th projected best team in the NFC when Tom Brady retired. Tom Brady comes back. We're automatically number 1. We're Super Bowl favorites to go against the Buffalo Bills in Arizona. Well, it's not looking like a Super Bowl team now. And it's not a panic mode. There's still 14 games left. A lot can happen. Like I said this yesterday on the show. The Buccaneers could finish 14-3 for all we know. They could finish 14-3 and everything is fine. Everything is right. All the wrongs are righted. They figured it out. They turned the corner. But the fact of the reality is that they're sitting 2-1 when they should be 3-0. We knew that we knew that these first 4 games were going to be tough. We knew that they were going to be difficult. But you shouldn't lose to the Packers, who have no wide receivers. When you've got the best secondary in the NFL in coverage, you've got the number 2 overall defense. You hold the Packers to 14 points. The Packers don't have anybody on offense outside of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You have Aaron Rodgers. And look, just like Tom Brady is going to make some plays with random guys like a Tyler Johnson or Brashad Perriman or a Scotty Miller. Like, Tom Brady is going to make things happen with a ragtag group of guys. Aaron Rodgers is going to do the same, but the defense held them to 14 points. That's a winnable game. This team was averaging over 30 points a game last season. This Buccaneers team averaged over 30 points a game last season. They're averaging 17 right now. That's almost they've almost cut their point total in half. Well, they have injuries in offensive line. They've had injuries since training camp and they weren't addressed. We knew day 1 of training camp, Ryan Jensen went down. They've had injuries on the offensive line since day 1. They knew that Ali Marpet retired. They knew that Alex Kappa left and went to Cincinnati. And he's not playing well there either. They made a trade for Shaq Mason. That was a good trade, but the way we look at it based on his last performance against Green Bay, a lot of work for improvement. And I know there's communication. I know you got to build a chemistry with your teammates. And like I said, it's not panic mode. There's no panic mode for what the Buccaneers are doing. But you got to be realistic about it. You got to address some things because you have a very realistic chance of finishing your first 4 games 2-2 because the Chiefs are not nearly as bad as everybody, including myself, thought that they were going to be. Nobody thought they were going to be as bad as they are. So, or nobody thought they were going to be as good as they are. You gotta clean up. You gotta do better, and keep Tom Brady upright. Keep Tom Brady from having to duck in the pocket, right? Like how we talk about how cool that was, but was it really that cool? It was cool to see Tom Brady be elusive a little bit, duck underneath a tackle, It was great. It was great to see that. But that's not what Tom Brady is, and that's not what we should expect Tom Brady in year 22. That's not what we should expect from him. That's not what we should expect from him at the age of 45 years old. That's where we are. Fix the offensive line, and now it doesn't. And now, if you fix the offensive line and put up the numbers that we saw on Sunday from Tampa, Tom Brady's got a little bit more time. I'm telling you that turns into a win if you address the offensive line, even without Mike Evans on the field. If Mike Evans is on the field and Tom Brady's got time, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. But Mike Evans wasn't out there and Tom Brady had no time. And we took the L in the home opener. And we realistically, we shouldn't have. Like I said, I don't want to hear about the play clock on the 2-minute or on the 2-point conversion. Oh, it started at 20 instead of 20. It happens. Anybody who has played sports competitively has heard the same speech from their coach of don't let the game be close enough that the referees can affect the outcome from a poor call or a missed call. Doesn't matter what sport. I heard it in football. I heard it in basketball. I even heard it when I was on the diving team. Don't let a poor scored dive affect the outcome. Don't execute properly, but somebody doesn't like you or somebody thought that something was wrong and then give you a 4 instead of a 10. And then now you drop from first place to 4th. Don't let anything be close enough to where human error can affect the outcome. That's the problem, and that's what they let happen. And it is what it is, guys. Jesus, excuse me. I'm still high on the Buccaneers. I still think the Buccaneers are the favorites in the NFC, but I do think that the Eagles are a hell of a lot closer. I think the Eagles are much closer to the Buccaneers than we thought that they were going to be, because the Eagles are just I'm going to do it. The Eagles are soaring. They really are. Jalen Hurts is looking like a steal. AJ Brown is looking like the AJ Brown that everybody wanted him to be in Tennessee. Devontae Smith just put together a fantastic Sunday. Miles Sanders is getting included a little bit. Nick Sirianni doesn't look lost anymore in calling plays. Like, the Eagles team is very scary. 9 sacks of Carson Wentz on Sunday. Like, the Eagles team is very scary. And I feel like if we're matching up right now, if the Bucs and the Eagles are playing on Sunday night or whenever, if the game gets rescheduled or whatever, I guess if the game gthen the possibility is different. But if the Eagles and the Buccaneers are playing on Sunday, I think the Eagles win that game without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, because they're just the better team currently. And it starts up front on both sides. The Buccaneers defense is doing its job. I know I talk a lot of crap about the Packers wide receiving core. And rightfully so, because the Packers don't have anybody. You can't lose Devontae Adams and replace a Devontae Adams with Sammy Watkins and expect similar results. Sammy Watkins, who now is on IR, by the way. But you can't. Same thing with the Arizona Cardinals. All they did was lose commodities. They lost Chase Edmonds. They lost DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games. They lost Christian Kirk. They lost Chandler Jones. And they replaced him with nobody. Literally, they replaced him with nobody. I guess you signed Marquise Brown, but Marquise Brown is a slot wide receiver 3 at best. That's why when he has a 14 reception game like he did on Sunday, you're like, whoa, hey, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown showed up. It's because you don't expect those things from him because he's not a wide receiver 1. You can't lose and expect to have similar results. The Buccaneers lost on the offensive line. They lost Ryan Jensen for an unknown amount of time. They lost Aaron Stinney. Would Aaron Stinney have been better? No way of knowing, but there's experience. Aaron Stinney has the benefit of experience under his belt. You know, there's a lot of guys on this team right now that just haven't played a lot. And they haven't played a lot together. Look at the offensive line. Robert Hainsey's never started. Brandon Walton never played. Shaq Mason, veteran, doesn't know anybody here outside of Tom Brady. Luke Gedeke, rookie, no chemistry. The offensive line is not only about performing and being able to block and create holes, but the offensive line is also about communication, and that's how it thrives. And when you've got guys that just have no camaraderie and there's no true leadership in the offensive line room right now, this is the things that you're going to expect to see. Someone's got to step up. Someone's got to take the reins. You know, hopefully it's somebody like a Shaq Mason who's been around the league for such a long time. Hopefully Tom was in Shaq's ear at the end of the game being like, yo, you're the veteran leader here. Get these guys together. I know you played like crap, but get these guys together. Make my life easier so we can just stack up these wins, because that's what we should do. The Bucs offense didn't look much better in week 1 or week 2, and they had Mike Evans out there. They had Chris Godwin in week 1. They had Julio Jones in week 1. And they didn't look much better. Sure, they scored more points, but the offense itself didn't look much better. They had more yards on Sunday against the Packers than they did in week 1 or week 2. And they had the luxury of having everybody on the field in week 1. So to say that it would have been different if Mike Evans is out there is simply not correct, because wide receivers are completely ineffective. It doesn't matter if you double cover. Doesn't matter if you leave Mike Evans wide open. If Tom Brady doesn't have time to get the ball out, Mike Evans ain't getting the ball anyway, because that is what a wide receiver's value is. A wide receiver's value is only as high as getting the ball. Otherwise, he's completely ineffective. Is he a red zone threat? Sure. Could it have helped them on the 2-point conversion if Mike Evans was playing? Sure. It could have. I'll tell you what really would have helped them is Robert Hainsey snapping the ball. I mean, Tom Brady clapped his hands 3 times and Robert Hainsey didn't snap the ball. Mike Evans being on the field didn't change that, right? Like that. Mike Evans doesn't change that. If Robert Hainsey doesn't snap the ball, the play's dead, period. Starts up front. Got to make these adjustments. Somebody's got to step up and become a leader and corral this group together and just make it more solidified to protect the freaking GOAT, man. If nothing else, to protect Tom Brady. You don't want a 45-year-old man whose marriage is on hiatus, whose wife is pissed off at him because he unretired. Like, you don't want this guy. Like, that's an insult to injury. You don't want that to happen. You don't want him to get injured on top of everything else because he decided to come back and play with you guys. Like, got to be smarter than that. So hopefully the Buccaneers do some work to address the offensive line this week, whether it's drills. I mean, I don't know if they've got their eyes on anybody to sign, trade for, get somebody out of retirement. Don't know, but they've got to make some sort of adjustments, and hopefully they're just running through drills, and just trying to get this offensive line in tip-top shape to where it's supposed to be, even with the next man up scenario. Told you it was going to be short and sweet. Maybe not as sweet. I like being realistic. That's the thing. Too many people don't want to be fans and realistic at the same time. I'm not that guy. My temperature will change. If we find out information today that the Buccaneers showed up to the Dolphins training facility and all the offensive linemen were smashing, and had a great practice. Protected Tom Brady the entire practice. Nobody like that. Perfect. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. But if I don't hear anything, my temperature is going to stay the same. It's not going to change until I see something happen that's going to be better. And that's it. That's all I got. Make sure you guys are taking the proper precautions, not overreacting, but reacting and preparing for Hurricane Ian. Even if it's, look, category 4 is catastrophic. Shouldn't be, but we don't know, right? Category 3 is still going to be very, very worrisome. I'm not going to use buzzwords because I know that people hate buzzwords. I'm not going to say that. But category 3 is still something that you need to be very mindful of and you need to prepare for, whether it's sandbags or boarding up the house, packing up the house and leaving. Like, do your videos of the stuff you got. Do everything that you possibly can. But start it now so you're not panicking. Start it now. After the show, when I tell you that we're done, then get on out of here and get to work. But take the necessary precautions. That's all we're saying. Stay safe. Have a plan. React, but don't overreact. Main event is live tonight. I believe it's just going to be Primetime Pelly by himself, but I am not 100% sure because everything's kind of up in the air for a lot of people right now because both of those guys are over in Clearwater, and Clearwater is definitely going to feel some effects from the storm. So everything is kind of up in the air. Main event will be on tonight, so make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to get the notification on our YouTube channel for when Primetime Pelly and Radio John go live. Stay safe, everyone. Make sure you follow us on the social media platforms to search for the Channelside Sports Network. Hopefully, I gave you a glimpse of insight into my mindset when I'm talking about Mike Evans and I'm talking about Tom Brady. And it's not a slight on these guys because it's coming from areas that are hampering their abilities. Hopefully I gave you some insight into that and some peace of mind and you enjoyed it. If you're tuning in now, please go back, watch the replay. Let me know what you think because too many people are literally like verbally going insane over my comment of Mike Evans not affecting the outcome of the game. But I read off the numbers as to why that's not going to happen. It has literally nothing to do with Mike Evans. Anyway, you guys have a great Tuesday. Stay safe. Make your preparations. Get everything done. Make sure you follow us on the Channelside Sports Network. And hopefully we can just make you feel a little bit better and entertain you, talk some sports, and just lighten the mood a little bit because you still need that muse, right? You still need that at the end of the day. I am Danny. This is Channelside in the Morning, and we will